Well, the markets may have had a pullback, but guess what? We've got some huge news for XRP, and I'll be getting to that just a little bit later in the video. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at what's going on with Bitcoin. So we have 3 days of candle closure in the green. You do notice here that there was a nice run up yesterday, but ended up closing out with a lot of this top wick right here. So at one point, hitting right around $83,000, closing out at about $81,500. Since then, we've now dropped below $80,000, but where we're at while I'm recording the video is just a little bit underneath that. In fact, if we zoom in even more, we can see that there's a bottom wick to this candle. So there is the possibility that this starts to make a bit of a recovery here. I'm recording this video right around noon on the East Coast. And if we take a look at the volume for the previous 3 days, we have the most volume here back on May 4th. It dropped down some May 5th. And then there was that really nice run up, a lot of optimism that was going on for May 6th, but we weren't really seeing that reflected in the volume itself, right? The price itself was doing great, but the volume was actually less than the 2 previous days. And then this is just abysmal when you look at May 2nd and May 3rd. And here on the new day, guess what? We're a little over halfway on the previous day's candle already. So there's a possibility that this could make a nice little rally. As it is right now, though, I think people definitely should keep an eye on and be concerned about a retest of around $78,000. You can see that this is lining up not just on the Fibonacci retracement, but we also have the bottom wick here back on May 4th. We have that on May 3rd, right around May 2nd. It's all lining up quite well. Even the closure for the day was just slightly above this for May 1st. So it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Now let's go ahead and cover some main key news events. First up from Ripple Anxiety, we've got $3.9 trillion, not billion, $3.9 trillion of Ripple's treasuries transaction volume is expected to move on-chain within the next 5 years. So we're talking about by 2031. And ETF clients purchased $13.03 million in XRP, increasing total ETF held net assets to $1.43 billion. Now, these are newsworthy, but these are not the biggest news events that I wanted to talk about, or the biggest news event I want to talk about for XRP. We'll be getting that in just a moment. We're almost there. Now, a little bit more. Granite Shares 3x leverage XRP ETFs launch on NASDAQ today. After 5 delays, they finally pulled the trigger. Wall Street is loading up while retail sleeps. Okay, now check this out, guys. This is from Ripple's official Twitter account. This is a meaningful step toward 24/7 global financial markets. What is that exactly? So from Ondo Finance, Ondo, Connexus by JPMorgan, Mastercard, and Ripple successfully completed a landmark pilot transaction connecting the XRP ledger with interbank settlement rails. I want to stress this again. We're talking about Ondo, Connex by JPMorgan. You've got Mastercard right here. So by combining the XRP ledger with global banking infrastructure, this pilot shows how institutions can execute cross-border transactions in a single integrated flow. From Mastercard themselves, today, Mastercard, Ondo Finance, Connexus by JPMorgan, and Ripple successfully completed a landmark transaction connecting a public blockchain with interbank settlement rails. Together, we're laying the groundwork for 24/7 global markets that never close. And you also see this from First Ledger, who's their description here in their bio: easiest way to create and trade on the XRPL. So First Ledger, the whole world will use the XRPL. Now, moving on. First Squawk, Shell CEO stated they have created a significant shortage of nearly 1 billion barrels of crude oil, and the situation is getting worse daily. So I mentioned this in my previous videos. You really need to be watching what's going on the global level. Stock markets are hitting record highs over and over again, and a lot of people are suggesting that it's a bubble that is highly inflated. Other people may make the argument, well, the economy is different, and then comparing that to back to, say, 2001. And yes, there are a lot of American-based companies that you will see over in international places compared to where it was, say, 25 years ago. That is a factor, don't get me wrong. However, I think we also need to take in consideration just the basics. If you have enough of a percentage increase, there are going to be people that want to take profits. And the big players, the ones that are making the most money, they might try and say, hey, I want to pull out now. And they're going to have a huge splash because they're the whales. And next thing you know, if everyone is too optimistic, people are over leveraging themselves, and then you got a huge wave crash. So I think that people definitely should be a little bit on edge right now. Things are pretty crazy. Okay, moving on. Japan stock market, they hit an all-time high. From the Kobayashi letter, the bond market is under serious pressure. The 10-year treasury yield now exceeds the S&P's 500's earning yield by around 90 basis points, the second largest negative spread in 24 years. So like I was mentioning, right around 2001. Over the last 5 years, the difference in yield has dropped 680 basis points. The S&P 500 equity risk premium has been negative since mid-2024, except for a brief jump in April of 2025. This means that in theory, less risky 10-year treasuries are now offering a higher yield than the S&P 500. So in other words, investors are penalized for taking the extra risk of owning stocks over bonds. And historically, this has been associated with high risk appetite and stretched equity valuations. The bond market is under historic pressure. If we take a look at what's going on with XRP's price, we already looked over here with Bitcoin. Guess what? Bitcoin's down. Surprise, surprise. Surprise, surprise. XRP is also down. It's below $1.40. This was a very important level. This is on the Fibonacci retracement. It's a psychological level. It's down below $1.39. Similar to Bitcoin, we are seeing a bottom wick formation, and it's starting to come back up. And also, what's very interesting is look at the volume for the day. Similar to Bitcoin, it's a little bit over half the amount of volume currently of what the previous day's amount was. So we're seeing a lot of parallels going on with that of Bitcoin and XRP. In addition, you also have the 3 daily candle closures. Bitcoin had the same thing. You've got that really tall wick on the previous day. Guess what? XRP has the same thing. These nice run-ups on these wicks for the 2 previous days as well. And yeah, so Bitcoin, XRP, crypto in general, all down a bit for the day, even though yesterday was a nice day. Can't really celebrate too much, but we did have 3 days of candle closures in the green. It's not unheard of for there to be profit taking, right? In fact, we even have that, just zooming out here a tad bit, 1, 2, 3, right? April 30th, all the way to May 2nd, green candles, and then a little bit of pullback. Okay, so that's what I've got for you guys in today's video. I hope that this video was insightful for you. And also, if you haven't heard of BTCC, this crypto exchange has been around for 13 years. And if you use my referral link, if you want to check it out, you can get a 10% deposit bonus. This is for deposits over $500. So there's a lot of potential right here. If you want to research it more, and if you want to get started, you can check out my referral link in the description below. Okay, and I appreciate you guys. You be safe out there. God bless you, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.